My name is Jack McColl. I teach entrepreneurs on how to fund their business with business credit cards. I have a group of over 3,000 entrepreneurs that I'm teaching it. When I learned about business credit, it completely blew my mind because I figured out that you can get approved for hundreds of thousands of dollars with no tax returns, no income verification, and you can do it if you just have.
We're gonna talk today a lot about credit cards and building your credit and business credit.
My first few business ventures were so difficult because I was always strapped for capital. I figured out that getting capital is the easiest way possible through these business credit cards. And for most entrepreneurs, getting 20K, 80K, 200K is life-changing money. It solved such a big issue for me that I knew millions of other people in this country could benefit from that same solution.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin is Zaback Show. Today we have a guest that we've actually had on once before. It's been about 2 years, and he is somebody that the first time we brought him on, the episode went viral. Tons of people loved the episode, so I said, dude, we got to get him back on. We got Jack McColl on the show today. I appreciate you coming back, brother.
Awesome, bro. It is so good to be back. It's so good to see this new studio. I am comfy on this huge brown couch. Definitely a pleasure.
Dude, I love it, bro. Yeah, we bought that couch. I'm like, all right, I want my guests to want to sit there for a long time,
I'm comfy.
I don't want them to want to get up.
I can be here for 2 hours.
I love it, dude. Cool. Well, we'll rock and roll, man. We're going to drop a bunch of value. I got my credit card book, so we'll dive into that here in a little while today. You had yours last time, and we're going to talk today a lot about, credit cards and building your credit and business credit and credit stacking, right? And then and towards the end of the podcast, I want to talk about some skydiving and a little bit of life and all that too. But let's just start out maybe for people who didn't see the first one that we did. Who are you and how did you get into the world of credit and business credit and teaching thousands of people all around the world how to do what you do?
Yeah. So what's up, guys? My name is Jack McColl. I teach entrepreneurs on how to fund their businesses with business credit cards. I have a group of over 3,000 entrepreneurs that I'm teaching it in my group called Credit Stacking. And really, I've been teaching credit for over 4 years. And really, when I learned about business credit, which was about 5 years ago, it completely blew my mind because I figured out that you can get approved for hundreds of thousands of dollars with no tax returns, no income verification, and you can do it if you just have good personal credit. And so once I figured this out, it completely solved so many issues for me and my business because I could easily get access to another 50K business credit card, which came at 0% interest for 9 to 18 months. And so I've been an entrepreneur for about a decade, and my first few business ventures were so difficult because I was always strapped for capital. I was, my very first business venture, I had $5,000 to my name, my business partner another $5,000. And we ultimately had a huge opportunity cost because we were selling a product that was massively viral, but we were importing them from China. And so we were just strapped on our cash. And then the next business venture, I knew I needed cash. So I brought on an equity partner, brought on the wrong equity partner. They brought the cash, we did the work, I ended up having to buy them out. It was a nightmare situation for us. And then, I figured out that getting capital is the easiest way possible through these business credit cards. And for most entrepreneurs, getting 20K, 80K, 200K is life-changing money. And so I realized it solved such a big issue for me that I knew millions of other people in this country could benefit from that same solution. And I also realized if I didn't know about this specific tool, being an entrepreneur for 6 to 7 years, that there's got to be so many other people that have no idea about this. And so I went on a several year journey, basically from then to now, just really cracking the code on exactly how to do this to be super efficient and effective on doing this. And it's really not a hard process, but there's many small steps you need to do to be attractive to the underwriters where they'll be glad to give you $50,000 to $200,000 on these business credit cards. Yeah. And you can do it with a brand new business, less than 6 months old. You just need good personal credit. So that blew my mind. And, I help a lot of people with these strategies. I teach them how to do this themselves. And it's been a game changer.
Dude, for real, bro. And congratulations. 3,000 people that you're mentoring is no joke. We've got a couple hundred in our community, and 3,000 is like the real deal, right? So you're changing a lot of lives, which is really cool, right? I believe that that's what we're all called here to do at the end of the day, right? Why is there such a big gap in knowledge in the industry, right? Like, why don't more people, like, here comes Jack McColl 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? And there's really nobody else. I mean, you kind of look around, who else is teaching, what you're teaching? I feel like there's a gap in the industry of people and just entrepreneurs in general that they don't even know that they could go get funding. Like, they don't even understand business credit at all.
I mean, I think it's part of the design of the system. There's a reason they don't teach you about tax in university. I studied business at University of Washington. They don't teach about business funding. They don't teach about tax, two of the most important things to understand as a business owner. And, of course, they don't teach about good diet and fitness and things like that. The best things in life, you have to figure out yourself. I don't know why they don't teach it. Probably, I mean, it's just such an advantage. It's such an advantage learning tax code, learning business credit, and many other things like that. But I don't know, man. I realized that this information's not taught anywhere. And I realized that I had to fill that gap and do it. And so, it's been my absolute life purpose is to show entrepreneurs that this amazing tool can do absolute wonders for your business. And it also can do very bad things because, you have these 0% cards, which is the promotional offer for 0% for 9 to 18 months. And after that, it goes to the normal high credit card interest rate. But if you know how to do strategic balance transfers to other 0% cards, you can effectively get the 0% interest for multiple years. And of course, you want to spend the money wisely and you don't want to get yourself into a big hole. But for most people that have an extra 100 grand, I think the chance of succeeding in that business dramatically increases. Because I just remember how difficult it was for me to succeed in business when I didn't have access to money. And now it's much easier for me to succeed because I have access to money. And it's not even I have money, it's I have access to money. So when people are getting started in business, to have access to the money is crucial. And the many people that I'm teaching, it's doing incredible things. There was a woman that came on one of my coaching calls recently, and I helped her she was saying this in front of like a coaching call in front of almost 100 people, and she was getting emotional telling the story. But she's like, Jack, you helped me get just shy of $300,000, and I used that credit to invest into my real estate company. And the money that I've generated from that has completely changed my life and my family's life financially. Wow. So thank you so much. And she was getting emotional. It was just so incredible to hear that.
That's so cool, dude. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better in the world than hearing, when you change other people's lives. So that's awesome, man. Talk to me a bit about like business credit, right? Like, let's just dive down the rabbit hole, What's the difference between, for maybe somebody who literally is like, yo, Jack, like, what are you talking about, bro? Right? What is business credit? I mean, like, how is it different than, let's just say, like, personal credit?
Yeah, and I want to make sure this episode is as valuable as possible for your listeners. I want to get as tangible. Hope you guys can have a piece of paper, take notes, things like that. But I want to give you guys some actual tangible strategies here. So when it comes to business credit versus personal credit, and so you can build business credit scores, which there's business credit bureaus like Dun & Bradstreet and Experian Small Business and Equifax Small Business. Building the business credit scores is not necessary to get really, really good approvals on these business credit cards.
Interesting.
The most important thing is having a good, strong personal credit report. And so, so the banks are looking at much more than just a score. Someone can have a 790 personal credit score, but they have a very thin account history. And so some of the things that the banks are looking for is, one, definitely clean payment history. They don't want to see anything negative in the last 2 years. If you have delinquencies, late payments, charge-offs, collections, I'd recommend to find a credit repair company to help get those disputed and removed, which is definitely possible. So don't think you're screwed because you have negatives on your report. Go find a credit repair company, get those disputed and removed. So that's first step, is your payment history. Next is the amount of accounts you have on your profile. So the more accounts you have, the better. And the higher your limits collectively on your primary personal credit cards, also the better. And so someone that has maybe 2 personal credit cards with combined limits of only $2,000, that's a very thin credit report. Only 2 accounts, $1,000 or $2,000 in limits, whatever I mentioned. It's very thin. And so you want to be getting personal credit cards on a consistent basis, but also not too fast. Because if you have more than 2 personal credit accounts open in the last 6 months, and then you go apply for a business credit card, you're probably going to get denied because of too many recently opened credit accounts. So you do want a ton of personal accounts, but you want to do them over time. So I'd recommend to do basically 1 to 2 every 6 months. And ideally, before you do business credit applications, you want to have at least 5 personal primary accounts with collective limits of at least $15,000. These are limits from your primary credit cards, not limits from your authorized users. So that kind of covers the amount of primary accounts you want and kind of covers the amount of collective limits you want between those cards, which ideally it's $15,000 or more. Ideally, it's $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 collectively. So we talked about the amount of accounts you want, talked about the collective credits, collective limits, talked about the payment history. Next, we want to look at the credit age. So the higher average age of your report, the stronger your profile is going to be. So if you have less than 2 years of average age, that's a very young profile. And so an easy way to increase that age is by getting added to someone else's card that has much bigger age. So that card reports to your credit profile and then increases your age. It's called an authorized user. So that's how you increase your average age. And then from there, one thing to also think about when you're applying for these personal credit cards to increase the amount of accounts you have and increase your personal credit limits, you want to be doing this at the top banks. Because if you get a Chase personal credit card, it's a tier 1 bank, it looks way better on your credit profile than if you get a credit card at a credit union or a retail store account. Those are tier 4 low tier accounts. And so you want to focus on the big banks like Chase, Bank of America, Citi, Wells Fargo. American Express is up there, but not as high as Chase. But you really want to focus on Chase first because those are tier 1 cards and they look better on your profile. And Chase also gives much higher limits than most banks. So now we just talked about the type of personal credit cards you can apply for and get on your report. Now I want to touch on high limit personal credit cards because we want to maximize every personal credit card that reports to your profile because it needs to be very strategic. So some of my high limit personal favorite high limit personal cards is the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Sapphire Preferred, the Built credit card, which is issued by Wells Fargo. The Apple card is a high limit card. It's a lower tier card, but it's a high limit card, which really helps. And so by applying for those cards, there's a significant chance you'll get a much higher limit than if you apply to other cards. And again, that collective limit of personal cards you have on your profile is crucial because the higher that is, the better you're going to do on limits on business credit cards.
Very interesting. I don't think I knew half that information, right? And I've been doing it for a long time, so it goes to show, right? But I'm not in the credit world every day, and if I don't know half that information, people watching, dude, like they don't know, like people don't understand anything you just mentioned for the most part, right? So very valuable. I have a couple of the cards that you just mentioned. I got to get a couple of the other ones, but I've had my Chase cards since the day I turned 18.
Nice.
Chase was the first one that I ever got. I got I think at the time it was the Preferred, might have been the Reserve, I can't remember, but and then I got the Southwest card, right?
Cool.
I want to talk for a minute too, before we get too far, for people who maybe are beginning, getting started. Maybe somebody's watching, they're 18 years old, they're 19, right? And they don't have any credit, like talk to me about, is no credit bad credit? So that's my first question, right? I think there's a misunderstanding around that, right? Is no credit bad credit? And then also, how do you get started day one if you've never had credit in your life? And maybe people are watching, they're afraid, like they don't know what to do. They're like, dude, where do I go? Like, how do I start?
Yeah, really good questions. So no credit is bad credit. You have a credit score and it might be good, like a 730, 740, but that credit profile is not going to do much for you because the history is so thin. The age is probably super young. There's not many accounts. So no credit is essentially bad credit because it's not going to do anything for you. So how you get started, like if you're starting from ground floor or even like just, towards the beginning of your journey in credit, I would make sure you get added onto 2 to 3 very strong authorized users. You don't want to do more than 2 or 3, but basically reach out to someone in your network. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a significant other, maybe it's a good friend. They have had a credit card like you've had since you were 18. So that's, about a decade.
Yeah, I'm
about
29
10-year
now,
old.
yeah.
Cool. So find someone with at least a 5-year-old credit card that can add you as an authorized user. There's no negative to the person adding you because the bank is just going to send them a card with your name on it and they can just cut the card up. So you have no access to their account or anything like that, but it's going to report that card on your profile as an authorized user. The only card you don't want to do this with is American Express, because when American Express reports as an authorized user, the date of opening shows the date that you were added. So it doesn't actually increase your age, because it doesn't backdate it essentially.
Got it.
So I would get added at basically for 2 authorized users. Ideally, the limit's over 10K. Most importantly, the age is over 5K.
Yeah.
Or at least something over your current average.
Phenomenal
That's going to
advice.
increase your age. Next, like if you're brand new, you probably want to start with a couple secured credit cards. So go, type in secured credit cards. Bank of America has a good one. That's also a good bank to build a relationship at, which we'll get into relationships soon. But get 1 or 2 secured credit cards. And then in a few months, then go for something like the Chase Freedom Unlimited, which is an elementary card at Chase, but it comes with an incredible amount of benefits. And I consider it one of the high limit cards. And you're building a relationship at Chase.
Walk me through a few of the benefits with the Chase. You said Freedom Unlimited.
Yeah.
Walk me through a couple.
You just get a lot of points on a lot of the purchases. So most people, where they spend their money, restaurants, grocery stores, a lot of the normal purchases that people have, that card gives you a lot of rewards for those transactions.
Got it. Okay. Really quick, I want to ask you too a question, and I'm sure we'll talk more about American Express in a little while. But when you have an American Express, okay, for people watching, when you essentially don't have a limit with a lot of the American Express cards, right? And it's a charge card, so it's like, in theory you have a limit. It's probably not actually unlimited, right? But like on paper, you don't have a limit. Okay. So how does it report in terms of your total credit? So like, let's just say I have 50 grand credit limit with like Chase Sapphire Reserve, right? And then I've got this American Express and I go and charge 10 grand on it. Does it show 100% credit card usage?
I'm glad you asked. So this is a reason why I don't recommend American Express charge cards, personal ones, when you're trying to build strong credit, because it doesn't report a limit to your profile. It shows a high credit amount of like what the highest balance was in the card, but it doesn't show a limit. And so again, when we rewind to building your collective personal credit limits, you want that to be as high as possible. When you get an American Express personal gold, for example, or the personal platinum, another example, it doesn't show a limit, so it doesn't build your collective limits. So if you're trying to build strong credit, I wouldn't get the personal charge cards. You can easily get the business ones, like the Amex Business Gold is one I use probably the most.
Yeah.
Like you get 4x on so many different amazing categories. The Business Platinum, also a pretty good card, good travel benefits, not really good for generating points. But if you want the personal charge cards, like the personal gold, personal platinum at Amex, I would just wait a little. I would focus on the high limit personal cards to build up your limits first. Then you have a strong base and foundation of credit, and then you can, get the other cards at later point.
Got it. So then at what point, in your opinion, like now let's talk to the entrepreneur, somebody who's, they already run a company or they're getting started, right? They're building a business in any industry, right? And let's just say maybe they've got pretty good credit personally, like they've got maybe, 750 credit score, they've kind of worked on it throughout their life. They've got a couple of credit cards. Like now they want to maybe go and they probably want to come, get advice from credit stacking, right? That's something they should probably do. So, and we'll link all that down below. But what should they do to go now? Should they go to like Dun and Bradstreet? Like, should they go down that rabbit hole to try to start building their business credit? Or should they just go try to get this 0% funding if they need more funding?
I think the two things I would focus on before the business credit profiles, the business credit scores, is making sure the personal profile is super optimized and making sure you're building relationships with the right banks. And so again, when we look at personal credit optimization, focus on all the stuff we've been talking about. That's how you optimize a strong profile. The one thing, just to add one point on the optimization. And I said it before, but it's really important. You don't want to apply for more than 2 personal credit cards in a 6-month window, because that's going to shoot yourself in the foot. I see sometimes people make the mistake and apply for 4 or 5 personal cards in the same week. And then now they're screwed for a whole year. They're not going to get business credit for at least a year because there's too many recently opened personal credit accounts. So I don't want you guys to make that mistake ever. So that's the optimization. Secondly, making sure you're building relationships with the right banks. And so you can do that in 2 different ways. You can do that through bank accounts, or you can do that through the credit cards. And so you build a credit relationship through the credit cards, or just the banking relationship. So for any entrepreneur like you're talking about, I would for sure be banking at Chase. Like have your business checking account at Chase, because the limits on Chase cards are generally way more significant than at any other bank. And that relationship really helps you get those high limits. The second bank I would prioritize building a relationship at would be Bank of America. Bank of America does give really good limits, and there's 3 0% cards at Bank of America, but they're very relationship based. So for someone that has no relationship at Bank of America, they're not going to get a business credit card approved. Like it, for sure, they're not going to. And so you have to build that relationship with Bank of America. And again, you can do this through the credit cards, personal credit cards, or through a bank account. And so if you're an entrepreneur trying to get access to capital, I would start the relationship at Chase, maybe then apply for the Chase business credit card. Maybe hopefully you get like a $50K limit if you do it right. Then after you get that, then shift your business operations, your cash flow into your Bank of America account. Do that for 2 to 6 months, and then get the business credit cards from Bank of America.
Yeah, phenomenal advice. Is there a credit score that people should focus on the personal side before they ever even attempt to go get like funding or anything like on the business side? Like, is there a magical number where it's like, dude, once you have like an 800, then you're good to go?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So really the score that I really love seeing people have at minimum before business credit applications is a 720.
Okay.
When you're 720 to 750, you're in a pretty good spot. Minimum 700. Like, don't even try anything if you're not even at 700 yet. If you're gonna do it in the 600s, you're gonna probably fail. So 720 and above, I really love to see, but above a 750, you're golden. Like the difference between 750 and an 820 is not that significant when we talk about business credit cards.
Interesting. What about on the personal side, just out of curiosity? I know we're kind of pivoting a little, so I don't want to go too far. We can save it for a little while, but like, I'm just curious, from a 750 to an 820, like what's the why should somebody even want to get an 820, 30, 40, 50 credit score? Seems like there's not much benefit after, like you said, like a 750.
There's not much benefit, but it does help out with mortgage approvals, mortgage rates, auto loan rates.
Got it.
That's where it's really significant. And that score does help with your credit card interest if you do end up paying credit card interest.
Got it. Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, anytime I've had a really high credit score, like I've financed a few cars, obviously. I've owned a lot of cars in my life. A lot of them I bought in cash. Some of them I financed. And I get like a really low rate when I have like a 780 credit score, right?
Yeah.
And so I totally agree with that 100%. I think that it's obviously fascinating, right? Even me, I'm an entrepreneur. And to be honest, and I think I told you on the last podcast, I've never really got funding, dude. Like I bootstrapped every company I've ever built, and in retrospect, the only reason I didn't is I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I just didn't even know it was available to me. I look back at my life and I'm like, dude, I didn't know I could get money. Like I just thought I had to friggin' fund everything with my own cash, and it caused me to take way longer to scale everything, right? Like ultimately I look back at my career, I'm about a decade into all the companies that I built. And, I probably could have done it in 5 years had I had a couple $100,000 in the beginning. Right. But instead I had to really do like one day at a time because I had to make money to spend money. Right. And I think to your initial point that you said a little while ago, there's a lot of people out there that have a really sound business idea or business model that if they had more money, there's a really high likelihood, dude, that they would make a lot more money.
It's true. And I think most people just don't know it's possible. They just don't know it's possible. And I think if you really have something you believe in, having extra 50K, 100K at 0% interest for a year is absolutely next level.
Yeah.
And, I don't blame people for not knowing about business credit. A lot of people think 0% interest is a scam. I see it on my ads all the time, but it's a real thing. Google 0% interest business credit card. It is a real thing. And it is next level when you can fully maximize your efforts in building your credit and getting these approvals. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know for a long time. That's when I knew I had to make sure people learned.
All right. So is it important to build your business credit? Like, when should a guy go to Dun & Bradstreet and a couple of the other people you mentioned and really do that? Should they ever do that?
So in credit, all these things we talk about are like all little different dials. And if you dial everything in, it just makes you more stronger and attractive to the lenders. Dialing in a score and a profile on Dun & Bradstreet isn't a requirement. It certainly helps. Like a relationship will help, like increasing your collective limits will help, the age on the entity will help. These are all just things that help. But having a score and trade lines on Dun & Bradstreet isn't a requirement.
Okay. Do you think it makes sense when, in your opinion, because it takes work and effort to go do that, right? Like, should somebody do it after they're making $1 million a year? Like, at what point, like, should somebody go do that?
I think when you're looking at your situation, the strengths of your credit profile, your business, the nature of the business, things like that, and you want a little bit more peace of mind to make your situation more attractive going into these business credit approvals and the applications and things like that. If you want better peace of mind to be stronger, you should definitely do it. Like if you look at your business and it's brand new and maybe it's a little bit of a higher risk and you have a pretty decent credit profile but not exceptional, then that would be a good scenario to then build out your business credit on Dun & Bradstreet. Because when you apply for a business credit card, they're definitely pulling your personal credit. So they're giving your personal profile a hard inquiry. It means they looked at the profile. They also may pull from Dun & Bradstreet and Experian Small Business and potentially Equifax Small Business. Some banks don't pull any of the business credit bureaus. Some banks pull from DMB, Dun & Bradstreet, and some banks pull from Experian Small Business. So it's just one of the ways to increase the strength. And so if you're in a situation where you really want to get approved for 200 grand and you have like a deal in front of you where it will absolutely change your life if you have 200 grand, then building the score on Dun & Bradstreet will definitely help with that peace of mind and just making your efforts way more effective.
What's one of the biggest mistakes, in your opinion, that people make with business credit in general?
Not checking their credit on a consistent basis and not thinking about it on a consistent basis. And so some people will go apply for business credit cards prematurely without looking at their credit. Maybe like one of their balances on a personal card accidentally just spiked up and it just dropped their score 50 points. And that's just like a small mistake, or actually a big mistake, a small slip up, but it turns out to be a big mistake. So to be looking at your credit and always thinking about how you can work on your credit. If you don't measure something, it's very hard to improve it. So measure your credit, right? And another thing I was going to mention, you said, what are the biggest mistakes?
Yeah, biggest mistakes people make.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
when it comes to credit.
Second biggest mistake is when people are not building this over time and thinking about it on a weekly, monthly, at minimum a yearly basis. And so I kind of see a similar situation where, if you're an entrepreneur and you're not thinking about how to reduce your tax bill through the year, you're probably going to get screwed on tax unless you have a really good strategist, right? So you need to be thinking about these important things on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And then that's I'd say number 3 is they're not building relationships at the right banks. This is a very easy one. We talked about it. Go build a relationship with Chase and Bank of America. Those are the two most important.
Got it.
And actually, one thing I'll add to that, Austin, is Wells Fargo just came out with a brand new business credit card, and they came out with a brand new personal credit card.
Really?
So the business card is 0%. It's a great business credit card. I see a lot of limits between 20 and 25,000, which is pretty reasonable, not exceptional like Chase, but pretty reasonable. And they used to have a business card a couple years ago, but they discontinued it. So the fact that Wells Fargo now has a brand new 0% card makes more sense to now build a relationship with Wells Fargo as well.
For sure.
And their personal credit card, the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey, is a super good personal travel card. It gives 5x points on hotels, 4x points on airlines, and 3x on, I think, dining and every other travel purchases. And then everything else at, I think, 1x. And why this is even more significant is Wells Fargo used to be where you couldn't transfer your points from Wells Fargo to different programs. And so when you can transfer your points from the bank to different programs like airlines or hotels, that's called a bank transferable point. And so that used to be only Amex, Chase, Citi, Capital One, but now Wells Fargo is on that list.
I didn't even know that.
It's brand new.
Wow.
And so it's an incredible card. The Wells Fargo Autograph Journey, I think it's a 60,000 point sign-up bonus once you spend a couple grand in the first few months. And then you can transfer those points to programs like KLM Flying Blue, Aer Lingus, British Airways, Iberia, and a couple other good ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting, dude. Yeah, because I mean, for a long time, Fargo was like terrible when it came to like credit cards. Like, I mean, I think even the last time you were on the podcast, like we were talking about Wells and we were like, dude, like, don't even bother, like they don't have anything good, right?
It used to be that way.
That's insane. So in the last, couple months, they've redone a lot of that?
2-3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think one of the other mistakes I'll add there is, and this doesn't even have to be specifically for entrepreneurs, but more people in general, but not having the right cards to maximize the amount of points you're making. And 2, even if you have the right cards, then not being smart and actually using the right card for your transactions. Like you should have a card that gives you the most amount of points for your dining, which is the Amex Business Gold or the Personal Gold. You should have a card that gives you 3x points for your travel expenses, and maybe even a card like the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey where you get 5x on hotels, which is incredible. So you want to have those cards, and then you want to use the card strategically to maximize your spend so you're accumulating as many points as possible. And then you can use those points as a statement credit, which I don't recommend. You can use those points for travel through the travel portal on that bank's website, which is decent, but I also don't recommend. I recommend to actually transfer those points to different airline or hotel programs. First, you want to find the deal on that hotel or airline program. And once you see a good deal, better than if you use those points in the portal, then you can transfer those points and get way more value on your points.
Yeah.
Like 3 times as much value, 5 times, sometimes as much as 15 or 20 times more value when you book first class flights on these programs directly instead of through the bank portal.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree. We should talk about that a little bit more because I just did a trip. You saw,
dude, your trip was incredible.
We did. That was, I'll tell you the numbers. So we went, from here to Dubai to Thailand, Thailand to the Maldives. Okay. We were gone for like 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks. And, the trip should have costed, had I paid cash, I want to say it was like, I have a sheet. It's like 75 grand cash trip. Right. Yeah. And I think I paid like 15 grand.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So say,
and how many points? If you want to share?
Over 1 million.
Yeah.
Over 1 million points.
Still, dude.
Yeah.
Epic deal.
Epic deal.
You tore it up.
Yeah.
Did you go to the Ritz in Maldives?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I've been there once. I used points. I got a great redemption.
So dope.
Emirates first class.
Yep.
We're at the W in Dubai.
Yep. That was, we stayed at 2 hotels in Dubai. That was just one of them.
Sick. Dude, I did a similar trip like that.
Yeah.
Probably right before or after our first podcast interview. So I was living through your content. I was like, yeah, W in Dubai, Emirates first class, Ritz-Carlton, Maldives.
And we went to Thailand, dude.
I saw that. I was so happy for you guys.
Yeah, dude, it was a lot of
so
fun.
Cool to
Yeah.
see. There's not many people that can do that.
No. And it was all possible through credit.
I was going to say, I was like, most people can do that, but they just don't know how to do it. And so how you do that, how you can use 1 million points to get, to save you tens of thousands of dollars on luxury travel on such an amazing trip is you build strong personal credit, you get the right cards, you maximize sign-up bonuses, you're strategic with using cards on certain transactions so you maximize the points you're accumulating, and then you have a good strategy on how to use those points to find good deals for luxury hotels and luxury first-class flights. I've been flying luxury first-class, business-class flights for several years, and I've never paid cash for them.
Never.
I just use my credit cards.
100%. And the 4 or 5 steps that you just mentioned are like people need to go back and rewatch that, right? Because even a decade into my entrepreneurial journey, I had like half of them down, right? So up until 2 years ago, dude, I had the credit. I had the credit cards. I had the companies. We were spending the money.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend a lot of friggin' money, right? But I wasn't spending money in the right places. So I didn't have that. And then I didn't know how to use the points that I was getting. So I didn't have the last 2. I had all the other ones.
Right.
Like I had the cards, dude. I had the credit. I had all that, right? But here I am spending $100,000 a month on Facebook on a freaking debit card.
So that's that. Oh my God, on the debit card.
And so then
So that was missing out on, because if you use the Amex Business Gold,
4.8 million points a year.
yeah, which on a one, that's crazy, dude. That's significant.
4.8 million, right? One change, and so that's just one example, right? To your point. And again, that could be applied on a smaller scale to anybody watching on a personal card. That could be like, hey, dude, you go out to eat 4 times a week and you're literally taking cash out of your wallet and paying with a Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing it wrong. Like,
and to put that 4 million into more perspective, that's about $50,000 worth of points if you just use them as a statement credit. A little bit less, maybe $40,000 of US dollar if you just use them as a statement credit in American Express. And that's several hundreds of thousands of dollars of free luxury travel.
100%.
Several hundred.
Yep. Dude, I already have got, it literally is insane. On that one credit card, I think right now I'm getting 500,000 or 600,000 points a month.
Cool.
On that one card. Yeah. So every 2 months I get 1 million points.
Are you getting multiple business golds?
No, I just have one. I need to get multiple.
You need to get more. I can help you do that.
Yeah.
I have a relationship manager at Amex that can help you.
I need to
Because basically on an Amex Business Gold, once you spend $150K, which is a month and a half for you, sounds like, it brings it from 4x points down to 1x.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
So that's why you need to get basically 10.
So 150K a month is the number?
Yeah. No, just 150K in a calendar year.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, got it. So yeah, maybe I'm not getting as many points as I thought because my thing might have gone down now.
Yeah. And I'll connect you with my guy.
You should totally connect me. So let's talk about that really quick because I'm sure it'll be valuable for everybody watching, right? How would I go about that? Okay, so like I'm a guy, I own multiple companies, obviously. So I would just go get a business gold under a different company name, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And then I just have to make sure on the back end with my accountant that they know that like, where how the money's moving around, right?
Yeah, so you can do it 2 different ways. You can get multiple business golds on the same business, or you can get a business gold on a different business and still use it for, like if you get a business gold on entity B, you can use it for entity A.
Yep.
For accounting purposes, I wouldn't recommend to commingle the funds. Like you have the statements clean or it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But you can have a credit card on a different business and then use it for whatever business you want.
What about option A? I didn't know you could do that. You can have two American Express cards on the same company?
Yes.
Really?
But you have to do it through a business relationship manager. So there's a lot of benefits through a business relationship manager, and this we haven't talked about yet, but it's the best way to apply for business credit cards at a lot of the top banks. So Chase, for example, you get significantly higher limits if you apply through a business relationship manager.
Really?
At American Express, there's other different perks and benefits by being connected directly with these individuals.
And how do people get connected with individuals like that? Do they just have to know somebody like you or like get connected in one way, shape, or form?
Yeah, it is. It's not easy for the average person, but if your business is doing a specific amount of revenue, then Chase, for example, will assign you one. If you're a member of my group or a friend of mine, I have business relationship managers that I make introductions to my members or to my good friends.
So valuable, dude. Yeah.
It really is. It's a next level. It's how you take it to the next level. Like you get different sign-up bonuses at American Express. You can get several cards at the same time. And then at Chase, for example, you get significantly higher limits.
Wow. Dude, I got to get that relationship from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then people watching, I mean, like, check out credit stacking because, I mean, that's invaluable. I mean, we're potentially talking about for me, I mean, just look at my example, right? You know, I'm going to probably lose now a couple of million points just because I didn't even know that I wasn't getting my full 4X anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was, but when there's just so much spend going on, I can't even keep track of it. I look at my points. I'm like, well, I gained a lot, you know, like I don't know how much I should have gained, but I gained a few 100,000, you know, we're doing good, right?
Yeah.
But in all reality, I could be gaining way more.
It's true. It's true. I'll give another really good strategy. And this is a little bit more tedious. So it takes a little bit more time. But basically, if you have a business gold, you get 4X on the top 2 categories, which is like software, advertising, dining, top 2 categories each month. And then one of the strategies on how to get 3.5X points on the rest of your purchases is this. You call them and say you want to add employee cards to your business gold card, like employee expense cards, I think they call them now. And basically they can give you up to 99 of these employee expense cards. And when I first learned about it, I thought you had to have 99 employees to be able to do this. But you can do it with yourself, just like Jack McColl, Roman numeral 1, Jack McColl, Roman numeral 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 99. I wouldn't do 99 at one time because the sign-up bonus, and confirm this on the call, but it's when you spend $2,000, you get a 5,000 point sign-up bonus on that expense card. And so, think about in a 6-month period. So think about how much you're going to spend in a 6-month period on non-advertising, non-dining, non-softwares, and then get, 4, 5, 6 of these cards. And then when you get the card, you have to call and add some information like your name, your social, date of birth, things like that. That confirms the card. Don't forget that step. I did that once and I lost out on points.
Yeah.
Once you do that, then you spend $2,000 on the card. And so it basically comes out to 3.5 points per dollar spent, because you spent 2,000, so you get 2,000 points there, and then you get the 5,000 points, so you're at 7,000 points with 2,000 spent, which comes out to 3.5 points per dollar spent.
Dang.
So it's a little tedious because you want to switch the card every 2,000. So it's not for the everyday business owner, specifically if you're doing several millions, but
if you're really trying to get the most out of what you're doing.
And so I like it, and I still do it. I have a team that helps me switch the cards and things like that, but I'm getting 3.5x points per dollar spent on everything else. So all my spend on that business is getting 4x on those top 2 categories, and then 3.5x on everything else. That's a lot of points. That's fully optimized. And then I use those points to find really good first class flights or really nice hotels, and I'm able to get a 5-10x multiple on those points. So I'm getting a lot of value from those points.
How would you recommend somebody get started? I want to talk about that just for a minute, right? And I've had Tommy on the show too, but I want to talk for a minute just about, say somebody's gaining a bunch of points. They're going to go apply all of the information that we just talked about, right? But now they're like, dude, I want to fly around like Jack McColl, right? Like I want to take a trip like Austin just took. Where do they begin? Like, how do they even learn about that? I mean, in your opinion?
Yeah. So the points game, it's a big game, and I'm super happy to see my good friend Tommy and Tommy on the show a couple months ago. Really good friend of mine. I've traveled to many countries with Tommy. We've done a lot of cool things on points together. But one, you got to do the first steps we've already talked about. But once you got the right cards, you're using the right cards, you're getting the points, things like that, you need to learn about how to find the deals with the specific airlines and hotels, so you can then transfer the points over to those hotels. And I do think it's important to diversify the points you have. Get points at Amex, get points at Chase, Citi, Capital One, Wells Fargo. Maybe not all 5, but you want to diversify your points because some banks can only transfer to certain airlines or certain hotels. So there's benefits of diversifying your points. But then how do you find the right deals? There's a lot of different newsletters you can sign up for like $100 a year. Like Thrifty Traveler, I think is the name of one. If you Google credit card points newsletters, there's gonna be a big list. I'm subscribed to several. I forget their names. I think Thrifty Traveler is one of them. They send you really good deals. Straight to the Points is another good one.
I haven't heard
and Amex, and basically when you sign up for these newsletters, they show you these are specific availability from these airports on these specific dates. Like, for example, I'll never spend more than 100,000 points on a business or first class flight.
Which is wild, dude.
Because I'm so good at using these resources to find these good deals. Ideally, I'm trying to find the sweet spot between 60 and 100,000. But you can get a lot of business class intercontinental flights for 70,000 points.
So wild.
It's incredible. So get those newsletters. American Express just made a new partnership with a software called Point.me. And Point.me used to be a subscription where you paid about $15 a month. And it basically allows you to put your airport where you're departing to the airport you're trying to fly to on a specific date. And you can run a search, and it searches all the different credit card points programs and then shows you the best deal. But with this new partnership with American Express, if you have, I don't know if it's a specific card at American Express or any card, but maybe it comes with the Platinum. Anyways, if you have American Express cards, I would Google Point.me Amex, and then you can log in. And now it's a free subscription if you're an Amex customer. You might have a specific card. But anyways, Point.me is a really good search tool to allow you to find those good deals. The only limitation is it doesn't let you do a date range, and it doesn't let you select multiple airports. So there's there's like two really good other softwares that I use and I exclusively teach to my students, but they allow you to search multiple airports where you're departing. So if I was trying to fly out of this area, I'd put in Phoenix, San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Houston, Denver.
Because you could take your little jumper flight
Exactly.
to wherever you need to go.
We call that a positioning flight.
Positioning flight.
So you can search 6 airports, and say you want to get over to Europe, you can put like Vienna, Paris, you can put like 6 different airports there. So it gives you much larger pool of information, and then you can put a date range. And so Point.me is a really good resource, but you can't do a date range and you can't do multiple airports. However, how I use Point.me, which is still a really effective tool I use all the time, is you can just open up 20 windows. And so say you want to search a date range of 20 days, put your airport, and like if you were flying out of here, this area, I'd recommend to search from like Houston or Dallas. There's going to be more availability, better options. And so I would run a search from Houston to Paris, for example. And then I would set a specific date. Then I would open up 20 windows. And then each window I would change the date to a different date. So that's how you would do
like the hack.
A date range. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. It's like copy and paste a new window a bunch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you can just say like command enter, command. I think that's it. And it just opens 20 windows.
Got it.
And then you can do the same thing for different airports. So you have those 20 windows from Houston. Maybe do the same thing from Dallas.
You got like 80 windows open.
Yeah.
Your computer crashes.
And then you can search it by the favorite or something. Anyways, that's a really good deal. So basically then that shows you how it shows you the deal. So maybe on United, it flies from Houston to Paris, and it's like business class for 60,000 points. And these are the banks that transfer into United, which Chase is one of them. There's not a ton for United, I don't believe, but Chase is one of them. So it says, okay, make sure you have the points at Chase. Make sure you go to united.com, you make an account. And then once you have the account made, make sure you find that flight deal on United, because the software Point.me could be wrong. So it shows you where the deal is. Now you want to go make an account on United for free. And then you find that deal. And once you see the deal, then you can transfer from Chase over to the airline. And then the points usually hit within 5-10 minutes in most times. Sometimes it will tell you it takes 1 to 2 days, which is generally false. And I made that mistake one time. It said 1 to 2 days. I was like, oh, dang. So I checked back 1 or 2 days later, and then the deal was gone. But then I realized the points already hit, or I somehow learned that.
Yeah.
Anyways, the points transfer immediately.
Got it.
And so one thing to note is when you transfer the points, you can't transfer them back. And so only transfer them when you see the deal and you want to book the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that almost happened with me on an Emirates flight, because I was trying to upgrade, because on one of my legs, because we took like 4 Emirates airplanes. So we flew first class from Dallas to Dubai. And then we had a business class from Dubai to like Thailand. And then another business class Emirates, Thailand to Singapore. And then another business class from the Maldives, I think, back to Dubai.
Sick.
And so I was trying to get another first class. And I had the points in my Amex account, but I was like, but the upgrade wasn't available. And so I was like, well, I don't really want to move the points ahead of time to Emirates, just in case like the upgrade doesn't become available. Then I just have like 100 or 200,000 points, because it was me and my fiance, like sitting in Emirates. And I'm like, well, what if I don't fly them again for a while, But then I learned what you're talking about, where I was like, oh, it's instant.
Yeah.
So then I waited until like the morning of, when the upgrade became available. I made the transfer. I refreshed my page. And then I went and I just showed it to like the lady at the front desk, and I was like, hey, can we get an upgrade? And she's like, do you have the points? I was like, yep. And she's like, cool, here you go,
Good move.
So it worked out well. And I only knew any of that because I hit up Tommy, and I was like, yo, what do I do,
Nice.
And so again, it's like a lot of the information we're talking about, it's not really out there, So I think hopefully so far people are getting a ton of value. If you're getting a lot of value, like the video, by the way. I want to ask you too, while we're on the topic real quick, how many total credit cards do you think you have?
I need to do another count, but I've had as high as 70 active at one time. Personal card, business cards, corporate cards, but I've closed some because I just don't use them, and just kind of peace of mind. It's a little confusing once you get that many.
Yeah.
But I have several dozen still that are active right now.
Probably like 20 or 30 maybe still.
Probably like 40.
Okay. Yeah. if you had to, okay, this is going to be a hard one for you because I already know, I think I know what you're going to want to say, but you're not going to be allowed to. If you had to pick one card, like if you could only have one credit card, I know it's impossible because I get it because you're like, oh, but food and this and that and the other thing. But like if for some reason you had to have one credit card.
I'm going to do one personal and one business.
Okay, all right, I'll let you do that.
So the one personal card, that's hard.
It is hard.
One card I would do is the brand new Wells Fargo autograph Journey. That is, I believe, if it came down to one, it's the best. Because like for me in my lifestyle, at least, it gives 5x on hotels, 4x for airlines, and 3x on travel. And so like other travel, actually dining as well. Okay. And so it gives you a lot of points. And we talked about those points are now transferable, which makes it way more valuable. If they weren't transferable, I wouldn't do it. And so side topic real quick is by generating points at Bank of America or US Bank is not a good thing because you can't transfer the points out. You have to use them in the portal and you're at a fixed value. So back to the question, that's probably the number one personal card I would do. It used to be the Chase Sapphire Reserve because you do get 3x on travel and on dining. And I might actually downgrade that card this year because I have other really good options instead. So the one personal card I would keep is, again, the Wells Fargo autograph Journey. Okay. The one business card I would keep would be the Amex Business Gold because it gives you 4x points in the top two categories, which is advertising, dining, software, I think office supply stores, I think electronic stores, but it looks at what you spend the most in a month and gives you 4x on those top two categories and then 1x on everything else. And then if you do that trick with the expense cards, the employee expense cards, and you want to be tedious about it, you can get 3.5x points on everything else.
Got it. Okay.
So those are the two best. Those are the two that I would
had to pick.
Keep. That's a hard question.
It is a tough question, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to throw some shade on the business platinum.
Okay.
It's not a good card to generate points. It gives you $1. It gives you 1 point per dollar spent on basically all purchases. The only time where it gives you more than that is if you have a single transaction over $5,000, then it gives you 1.5x on that transaction.
Which is still not that
Which is not that much. No. I got other cards that give me 2 and sometimes 4.
Yeah.
And it gives you 5x points on travel, but only when you use it through the American Express travel portal, which sometimes it just doesn't have the best options. Like I like to be a little bit more flexible. And what I would say about the Wells Fargo card that we were just talking about, that card gives you 5x on hotels, 4x on airlines, but you can go directly with the hotel or airline. And the Amex Business Platinum gives you the 5x, but you have to go to the Amex travel portal. So it's somewhat limited there. Comes up with the $700 annual fee. If you use all the statement credits, like $400 at Dell, $10 a month for your phone plan, cleared $189, which these days clear isn't even that good. Sometimes TSA PreCheck is faster. Yeah. So you can kind of break even on the annual fee with your statement credits, and then you get the free lounge access, which these days the Centurion lounges are quite packed. And then the priority pass, the international lounges, basically, you can get that on other cards. So that's a card, the Business Platinum, I'm probably going to cancel this year.
I don't even have that one.
Yeah,
I used to.
It's highly overrated.
My old ones are in here, but I don't have them anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
You really have to try to use it, unless you don't really care about the annual fee. But I like to be frugal, I like to save money. I just don't like to waste money.
No, dude.
And one thing I'll say, because I talked about canceling or downgrading, is if you have a personal credit card, I would highly recommend to never close it. But if there is an annual fee and you don't want to pay for it, I'd recommend to downgrade to a card that has a lower annual fee or just no annual fee. And so business cards you can open and cancel. It doesn't affect anything really. But personal cards, if you close it down, it's going to shorten your history. It's going to decrease your average age. It's going to decrease the amount of accounts you have, things like that. So
what's the alternative? Just leave it open and just don't use it?
So one, leave it open. And if the card has no annual fee, then perfect.
Yeah.
You should keep it open.
Mm-hmm.
I would even put one subscription on it,
Like $5 a month
on auto pay.
Yep,
And just
autopay.
don't even think about it. I have that with one city card. I put Spotify on there, 12, 15 bucks, whatever it is. And it just, I don't even think about it.
Yep.
But then they're not going to close the account. I do have the MX Personal Gold. And that's like, it used to be 300 annual fee. Now it's like 375. And I just don't use it that much because it gives you 4x on dining and 4x on, I think, groceries and a couple other things. But like, for me, it just, can't really justify the 375.
Yeah.
Because all my dining is business expense and I put it on the other card. So one thing about the personal gold is there's not a cheap downgrade option. You can downgrade to the green or something like that, but it still comes with an annual fee.
Got it. So they will let you downgrade.
They will let you downgrade, put to the green, which I think the green is still like $200.
Okay.
But then the green gives you 0 statement credits. So the gold gives you $20 a month, I think, on Grubhub, $10 a month on Uber. So you can, if you use those things, Uber and Grubhub, on a monthly basis, you can kind of break even on the statement credits. But sometimes it's kind of annoying, like if you want to make sure you use them.
Sure.
Or you just disregard it and pay it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. If you were to get offered a black card tomorrow, would you take it?
Yeah, I would take it for sure. There's incredible benefits. But
Are there?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to spend several millions of dollars every quarter on the card to be even in the potential of getting an invitation. There's no application. You have to be invited directly from American Express. And I've helped one of my good friends get approved for it. I connect him with my relationship manager, and he spends so much money on jet fuel because he's in that space, and his clients, he's putting the spend on his cards for his clients. And because he spent several millions of dollars every quarter, he had the invitation for the black card.
Wow.
But there's incredible benefits on that card, but you can't be, the only thing you can do to gain attraction from American Express is just to spend a crap load of money.
Yeah.
And then they'll reach out.
Do you eventually want to get one?
It's not, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not that worried.
Yeah. Like it's one of those things where it's like, you just pull it out. I feel like just having
the flex is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you do get some benefits, like you get concert tickets, exclusive dinner reservations, and you get the if you're at LAX, they drive you up right to the plane. I've always wanted to do that. And actually the easiest way to do that is if you fly Lufthansa first class, they'll drive you in I think it's a Porsche, all the way to the front of the plane, like on the tarmac.
Wow.
Tarmac. And it's really cool.
I think I just saw a TikTok, dude, where either United or American, like in an international flight, where they had a Porsche and they brought them up on the tarmac.
United or American?
It was either United or American. I just saw it.
Maybe they did that through the black card.
Maybe.
Because I don't think United or American directly offers it, but I know that is a feature of the black card.
You're probably
And I wonder if it was at LAX, which I would assume it was, and I would assume it was through the black card.
It probably was.
That's what I would guess.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool,
Nice.
Yeah, it was like a black Porsche.
Cool.
Right on the tarmac.
One thing I will mention on the topic of using points to get luxury first class flights is one tip is after you book the flight, you want to then pick your seat. And so if you book your flight with a different program than the actual operator of the flight, I'll give an example. If you're booking on the United platform, they're in the same alliance as Lufthansa. So you can book a Lufthansa flight on United. And once you book it, then you get a confirmation code. You want to go directly to the Lufthansa managed flight booking, and then you want to pick your seats. And what I like to do is go to a site called Aerolupa. I think it's AERO LUPO. Aerolupo or Aerolupa. Anyways, you can go on there and you can pick a certain aircraft, and so you can see, okay, what aircraft am I flying? Well, actually, I would look into this actually before you book your flight to making sure you have the dope aircraft, and I'll actually go into a story about that in a sec. But you want to go to the site Aerolupa and pick your aircraft type that you're flying, which you can find on the managed booking information or the flight details, and then you can see what the layout of the seats are, and then you can see, okay, what seat should I book? And then you can go to the managed booking and actually book your seats. And so where this completely saved me is I was speaking about Maldives and Emirates first class. Because I did Emirates business class to Dubai.
Okay.
And then from Dubai to Amsterdam, I was doing Emirates first class. And I had the option to book on the 777, the Boeing 777, or the A380. The A380 is the double-decker plane, as you're familiar with. And so I almost booked the 777 until I realized I can book the A380 aircraft around the same time for the same amount of money. And so I was like, almost made that mistake and booked the 777.
Wow.
So I booked the A380 and I got the Emirates first class seat on the double-decker plane. We took a shower on the plane. They had the bar in the back. It was incredible.
Yep.
But this tool, actually, I could have noticed that without the tool because it shows you the aircraft type, but maybe you're not familiar with the aircraft types. So you want to see, okay, what am I flying? Let me punch this in on Aerolupa. Oh, wow, this is a double-decker plane. Or wow, it's this specific layout. And then if you want to take it to another level, you want to figure out what routes have the new configuration, the game changer. So the Emirates 777 game changer, that's only on specific routes, which is one of the best first class seats. But there was a couch this big. In addition to my seat, it was a king's throne. It was actually like disrespectfully big because my elbows couldn't even fit on it when I'm like doing my phone. This was actually too big. But it also had the shower, and then it had a lounge in the back. Where Emirates was better than the Etihad was Emirates has like the full bar, like a bigger lounge, full bar. Etihad was a smaller lounge.
Got it.
But they both had the shower, the only two first class commercial experiences that had the shower, and the Etihad seat was bigger. So that's how I would compare the two. But I think I was on a story before I got distracted on.
Yeah, you're good. We were talking about the game changer and you were saying, the different aircrafts and stuff, right?
Yeah. So if you want, what I was saying, if you want to take it if you want to get even more nerdy with it, like Air France and some of the airlines have like just decked out their new seats. And so like the new Air France business class seat has these privacy doors. And so you can book the new one or the old one for the same amount of points. It doesn't change, but it would obviously be advantageous to book the newer one, right?
But it's like, how would you know?
It's how would you know? So you would kind of, this takes a little bit more time, but you can, there's different online blogs that will tell you what routes and what aircraft type. And so you can, if you want to take that extra effort, which I like to do, I figure out, okay, what routes are these new Air France business class seats on, and on what specific aircraft type. And then when I'm searching my stuff, I can see that aircraft type on this specific route. I'm like, hey, that probably has the brand new seating, which is it's significant for the same amount of money. And then also when you look at the seat arrangement, like on United, and this is just kind of a nerdy detail, but I think it goes a long way. There's some seats on United that like basically it's a business class seat, but it's in the aisle. And then there's another one that's a window seat technically, but they're like pretty much in line, but one just has significant more privacy because it's like 2-3 feet, maybe 2 feet from the aisle. So you're just more private.
For sure.
So if you're going to be spending that much money or that much points, like to go in a little extra farther to figure out, okay, I want this dialed seat. And I learned the hard way. I, want to book the aisle seat. And I'm like, wait, how do I get that seat?
Yeah.
Then I realized it's the, I don't know if it's the even or odd, but it's one of those.
Every other.
The odd is the window, which is clearly the better move compared to the aisle business class seat.
Yeah, we made that mistake on one of our flights where we were sitting in the middle. I think it was
and it was the split?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, it was Singapore Airlines, and we were business class in Singapore. And we were like far apart. We were together.
You can still see each other, but you're far.
And I was like, the people right in front of us and right behind us are like close together, And I'm like, dang it, we freaking messed that one up, right? It was the only one we messed up out of all of them.
And you got to mess things up. And the only reason I now know it because I messed it up too. But like those small details can be very beneficial.
They matter, dude. Yeah, because like when you're flying, like, you're going to, it's a totally different flight, right? For 5 or 6 or 7 hours or however many hours you're going to be on that airplane, like it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
I think everybody should go look, if you're putting the energy and effort into like getting the right credit cards and spending them the right way and making sure that you're actually getting points and you're getting value, then you got to go the extra mile when you're going to book your travel.
I agree.
100%. I want to shift gears a little bit because you've done a lot of traveling. And you've traveled, and recently you've been skydiving a lot. And I want to talk about that a little bit, dude. Like where did you get this itch to travel the world, skydive almost 500 times?
Yeah, so two-part question there: travel and skydiving, and I happen to travel for skydiving for fun, but I've always loved travel. As a growing up as a kid, my dad would always bring us on these ski trips to different states, and every year we'd go to Mexico, and I always loved that. And I was always, side note, I was always very inspired by like what my dad could do for his family based on the amount of time freedom he had. And he was a small entrepreneur, one-man team, still is a one-man team, but he created enough time freedom to be able to go on little trips with us, which I always loved. And so that's how I got the introduction to travel at a young age. And it just fires me up. It just gives you a new perspective on the world, on certain different things. When you're flying in an airplane, I feel like new ideas come to you. And I love the thrill of like, oh, let's make sure we make our flight on time. Are we going to get through security? Is there anything in our bag? Not that I would have anything in my bag, but there's like so many little things that give you this thrill and like these new experiences. So I've always loved travel, but dude, when I learned how to use these credit card points for travel, it just absolutely changed the game.
Sure.
So, I just want to inspire, like, maybe if you're listening to this and you don't have a crazy successful business, like doing this travel with credit card points is so possible for so many people. And, I hope you can take advantage, but, I love travel. I've been to almost 50 countries working on that.
Dang.
And, in terms of the skydiving, I've always loved extreme sports. I didn't play any team sports in high school. I did like the little league stuff, but I always liked the extreme sports, and that always gave me something really, really cool to like focus hard on and then see progression in. And I do think having sports or hobbies for most people or all people is super important. Not just have your business and your relationships, but you need to have that recreation, those sports, those hobbies where you can put effort in and then see progress. Whether it just be as basic as the gym, which I think is incredibly important. It's you versus you.
Yep.
So you're going in and you're just having this battle with yourself, and then you put the effort in and then you see progress. And so mentally that does amazing things to you. And then you can use that momentum, that win into your business or into your relationships too. And so I got into skydiving about 5 years ago. And since then I have about 500 jumps. And I just think it's one of the coolest things you can do. And when I look back on my life and think about what are the coolest experiences I've ever done in my life, and some of the two that stand out really high for me is skydiving over the pyramids in Egypt and landing right next to them. And then I just got back from a trip from Venezuela, and there's these islands called Los Roques, and it looks like you're on a different planet. It's crazy. Well, one, people think like, oh, Venezuela is so dangerous. And, I see these videos of, bad stuff happening in Los Angeles. And I'm like, it's safer than Los Angeles if you're if you're in the right areas. So it's kind of ironic, people from LA telling me, oh, be careful in Venezuela.
Right. Yeah. It's like, dude, there's crime everywhere.
Yeah.
What with skydiving, dude, like, I mean, you say it's like but it's got to be like the number one thrill that anybody can do, right? I've done it 4 times, nowhere near 500, obviously. I've never done a solo jump, although I would love to. And dude, like, talk to me about that thrill for somebody who's never done it.
It's crazy because, and Will Smith talks about this, and this is for most things in general, but all the fear and, anxiety, that all builds up right before you jump or before you do something. And it's so true in skydiving, because you're in the plane, you're like, kind of worried a little bit. And usually the first jump of the day, like, I'm definitely a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
And then second, a little bit too. And specifically in a new destination, it's nervous for sure. But then once you jump out, dude, it's just, remember your training. I've done this before.
Yep.
And even if it's your first time, it's like, it's so cool. But I think doing things like that is so important to keep you stimulated and to try new things and to be courageous and just to switch it up.
Yeah.
And so another thing I'm doing to switch it up is I just started the course to get my private pilot's license. And I think that's going to be cool.
Dude.
I think it's going to be exhilarating. I think it's going to be valuable for my life. So instead of, flying in a commercial flight here to Phoenix, I can just pop over on my plane in 1 to 2 years, hopefully, God willing. And then, I'll be able to fly my family around the country. And I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, because where are you living technically right now? Where's home base?
I split my time between Utah as of recent and Washington State.
Okay.
I've spent some time in San Diego. The last year and a half, I've been spending good time there. But I just made a move essentially to Utah, and I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 loving
Dude,
it.
Utah's awesome, man.
Awesome.
Beautiful, too. And the real estate there is on another level. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, like they got some freaking. I mean, I went out there. Went to like a mastermind. I can't remember. Oh, I went to Andrew Cordial. You know Andrew Cordial? You ever heard of that name? He's like business partners with Dan Fleshman and all them.
Okay.
But I was on his show, Andrew Cordial's show a couple years ago, and we went to like one of his like partners' houses, and it was just like I was like, holy cow! I didn't even know, dude, that Utah had crap like that.
Dude, I feel like a lot of people don't know. A lot of people have asked me why Utah, and there's just so many benefits, dude.
Yeah.
I am so happy to go from San Diego to Utah.
Yeah.
And I couldn't recommend it enough to people. If you're in a situation, in an environment with people in a place that you don't want to be in, there are most likely options. Like maybe you're in a tough spot and you need to budget some money, but like you can get out. Like with the certain discipline and focus, you can get out of any situation. So, money's usually tight and moving's not cheap. You got to move your stuff. You got to, put a new down payment on the house and stuff. But one app that's been super helpful to just manage my personal money has been an app called Monarch Money. And it connects all your cards, your bank accounts, and you can set budgets. And it really just outlines how much you're making, how much you're spending, and how much you're saving. And you can see all the different categories. Like, oh, dang, I spent a lot of money on dining this month. I need to tone that back.
Yeah.
Or dang, I spent a couple grand on Amazon. I need to spend that, cut that back. So if you're in a situation and you need to, save up some money for anything, like budgeting and managing your money is super important. I've been doing this for many years, but I've realized that it's not a common practice for everybody. But any business owner should be doing their bookkeeping on a monthly basis or have an accountant that helps. And then studying that profit and loss statement to determine, okay, what am I making? Why is my income up or down?
Yep.
Look at your expenses. Why are these up or down? And look at your bottom line. And then, figure out how to improve. It's like driving down the highway if you're not actually looking at your speedometer. You might have a decent idea on how fast you're going, but if you're not looking at the numbers closely on a monthly basis, you're not being as effective as you could.
Yeah.
And so budgeting and managing money and looking at it and measuring it, I think is so important, and not everybody is doing that.
It's like what you were saying a little while ago, right? Like looking at your credit score.
It's
key. Like you might have a kind of an idea of where you're at, but you could also be 50 points off and then go apply somewhere and get denied. And you're like, why did I get denied? And you're like, oh, dang, I freaking paid my credit card one day too late and I missed the closing date deadline or whatever. It's like you weren't paying attention to it.
I think the three things you should be consistently measuring is your finances, forecasting your tax situation, and your credit. And so like, looking at tax, like I'm looking at how much money I've made. What do I project to make? What amount of that income is taxable income? What deductions I already have? What deductions I need to have to keep my tax bill at zero?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about this on almost a daily basis. Like I don't want to pay the government any more in tax. I've made the mistake and was not advanced enough and intelligent enough to take certain deductions and do certain strategies where I've paid in the past a lot of money to the IRS.
Same.
And I was like, I'm not doing that again.
Yep.
And you can do that. Like you can figure out how to pay zero in tax, specifically easiest through real estate or, buying heavy cars, a little bit of deduction there. But I'm not paying the government tax anymore.
Yeah. How do you, now, since we're on the topic real quick, how do you go about, like there's a lot of mixed opinions, right?
Yeah.
People are like, oh, I don't want to pay any tax, like entrepreneurs. Like I want to write everything off, right?
Yeah.
But then they think they're not bankable. Then they're like, but then I'm not bankable because then if I want to go buy like a house or whatever, like what's your opinion on that? What's your take on that?
So dude, this is something I've been actively thinking about. So, being an entrepreneur, not having W-2 income, unless you pay yourself payroll, it can be hard to get approved for a mortgage. If your personal statements or your W-2s not sufficient, then you can do essentially a bank statement loan. They look at your cash flow. It's a little bit more expensive on the interest rate. You can put 10% down plus all the closing costs and all the costs that add up pretty fast. And then you have a higher interest rate. You can do that. That's for some people, entrepreneurs, that's sometimes the best. But then I was thinking about, so Pace with Sub 2,
Yep.
Who's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And we're connected, and we have courses that do some cross promotions and stuff. But he has such an incredible thing that he teaches, Sub 2, so you can take over properties from other people by paying their mortgages. Then you assume the deed, and then I'm looking into this more, but I think then you can then use that depreciation to offset your income. But specifically how you do that, and this is something I've learned since last year. And so I believe, based on my knowledge, that the easiest way for people who are making W-2 income or income from their businesses like we do to offset that active income is to buy a rental property, short-term rental it, and then you're the one managing it. And then you can do a cost segregation study, accelerate the depreciation on that house, and use that to offset your income. And so I'm not a tax professional, but I've been learning about these strategies. So to do that, so to use real estate losses to offset your income, you have to be qualified as a real estate professional. If it's your full-time thing, which it probably is your full-time.
I'm qualified. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I run a huge team,
Perfect.
Yeah.
So guys like me, real estate's not my full-time.
Yep.
The easiest way for me or any W-2 doctors, any W-2 people to be qualified is you buy a rental, you short-term rental it, which what that means is qualified is it needs to rent for, I think it's at least 14 days in a calendar year. The average nightly stay needs to be, I believe, 7 nights or less, somewhere around there. And then you need to participate on the management at least 100 hours, and that needs to be more than any other person managing it in the calendar year. So the move, to my knowledge, is you buy this rental in the last quarter of the year. You short-term rental it, and when you purchase it, you want to make sure the building value is at least 70 to 80% of the purchase price. So you don't want to buy in California where it's sometimes like 50-50. You want to get most of the value in the building. So then when you do the cost segregation study and then you accelerate the depreciation, there's more you can write off because of that building value. And then you can use that to offset your active income because now you're qualified as a real estate professional. If you didn't qualify as a real estate professional, then it could only offset your passive income.
Sure.
But you need a qualified real estate professional to offset your active income.
Dude, there's so many cool things that you could do.
Yeah. I believe, to my knowledge, that is the easiest way for guys like me or people making W-2 income to offset large amounts of active income.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day. They told me something I didn't know, that you can rent out your primary house up to 7 days out of the year, tax-free.
I think it's 14.
It might be 14.
Augusta rule.
Okay, it might be Augusta rule. Yeah.
I think it's Augusta rule, and I think it's 14.
Interesting.
And you can do like market rate, which I think you can kind of justify $1,000 a night, I think.
Yep.
So that's like a $14,000 deduction. Home office deduction, solid. If you buy a heavy car, section 179.
Yep.
I did that last year. That was really smart for me. Because I look at it and see like, would I rather pay the government tens of thousands of dollars or use the money to then, buy a nice car that weighs over 6,000 pounds, and then I can use that to offset my income.
Yep.
So it increases my monthly expenses on my nice car, but now I just didn't pay the government.
Right.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
For sure, dude. I've paid the government
stupid amounts.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars personally.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, no more. I finally told my partners, I told my accountant this year, I'm like, no more, dude. Like, we got to figure out how for me not to do that,
I'm sick of it.
Because I hate it, bro. Every time that happens to me, I'm like, how did I freaking end up? And it's always because I was in a rush. I wasn't paying attention, right? I was just building my companies, doing what I do. And then all of a sudden, January rolls around and I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't freaking do it. Like, I didn't, and then all of a sudden they hit me with a $250,000 tax bill that I have to pay, right? And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. And so for like people who haven't made that mistake yet, and I've made it, you made it, everyone will probably make it. That's why you need to measure
Yeah.
your income and think about tax through the year. Like I'm already thinking, I'm less than halfway through the year. We are. And I'm like, this is how much I've made. This is how much my taxable income. I need this much in deductions based on what I forecast to make. And I need to make sure I have a certain amount of liquidity for these rental properties, things like that. But now I'm learning about sub two financing rental properties.
For sure.
And I'm like, I'm still learning about the sub two process, but that model seems to be infinitely scalable because you can acquire these properties with almost no money out of pocket. And then you can, I'm still looking into it, but then I can think you can write off all your income if you get enough properties. So when you sub to it, because you assume the deed.
Yep, you do.
And then you can accelerate the bonus depreciation and take it.
You can.
Dude.
Yep. Infinitely scalable in theory, as long as the bank doesn't call the note.
That's just incredible, dude.
Yeah, it is, dude. Sub 2's dope. And seller finance.
Yeah.
Right? Like just go find, like, dude, I was going to buy a primary. Well, I'm going to buy another primary to live in. And one of the agents on my team sent me a deal the other day. It was a seller finance. Like the homeowner owns it in cash. Okay. They're old. They want to move out, whatever. Right. And they'll be the bank, dude. You just have to ask. Right. Like, I'm like, hey, I'll pay you a point more than the current interest rate or whatever. Yeah. Right. And you be the bank. Right. Yeah. And then I don't even have to worry about it.
It makes that strategy so much better because the interest rates are so high.
Yep.
I'm looking on this, ideally I get a couple $750,000 purchases and I'm figuring out, okay, how much money do I need to have liquid to do this? And it's like, then I'm also looking at section 179 thinking about how much I can actually write off, which it used to be 100%, as you know.
60% now?
Last year was 80. This year it's 60.
Yep.
So it's like making it less incentivizing. And dude, the bill was going to pass through the House or the Senate or whatever. And the Republicans shot it down because they didn't want the Democrats to have a win. Everyone wanted it. Everyone wanted the depreciation to go from 60% you can take to 100, but they shot it down. It will come back. But where I was going with that is based on the type of loan that I would be getting for a $750,000 purchase, I would need 120-ish grand liquid. And then if you do like the 70 to 80% building to land ratio, and then the cost segregation study, and then considering you can take 60% of that, it came out to, I think if the math was about 94 grand.
Yeah.
So now I'm putting 120 grand in and I'm writing off 94 grand, which 2 years ago when it was, you could take 100% of it, it was like 154 grand you could write off in that same example.
So cool.
Yeah. So now it's so cool, a little bit less incentivizing right now, but then I'm also learning about the sub 2 process and I'm like, dude, let's do that.
Game over, dude.
Game over.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how you do it.
Yep.
Like for anyone who doesn't know Sub 2 and Pace Morby, definitely go check him out. It is next level stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Pace is a G. Love that guy.
It is next level.
And yeah, dude, I love it, man. I think, dude, we dropped a lot of value. You dropped a lot of value in the pod.
You did too, man.
It's an hour and a half.
This has been a good pod.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of fun, dude.
You're a great dude, Austin.
I appreciate
it. I really have a lot of respect for you based on, just so many things. You have an amazing company here. You have an amazing huge building. You're building all this stuff. Look at this studio. You have a great following, an amazing fiance. You're truly respected in your network, and you do great things, and you've had a major impact.
Dude, I appreciate that.
At a pretty young, 29, 28?
29. Just turned 29.
Yeah. Okay. I'm 30 right now, so
there you go.
It's good to see you, man.
I appreciate it, bro. It means the world to me. It really does. And the feeling's extremely mutual, right? I knew that the day that I met you, that you were just a man with integrity, humility, right? And there's a reason you have 3,000 people in your community. It shows, because you approach your community, your life, your family, your friends with humility and wanting to serve people, right? And I think that's what we're all here to do, is to serve people, to help people, right? And I believe everybody on planet Earth is called to do that, to serve, no matter your religion or what you believe. I do believe that fundamentally, you look at every religion out there, right? They all talk about serving other people, helping other people, changing other people's lives, right? Making the world a better place. Like we can all agree on that, Big time. And I think you're doing that big time, dude. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you do. In conclusion here, if you could, I kind of always like to ask like kind of a final question, right? Which is typically something to the effect of, if you could just give one piece of advice, right? And I think I asked you the last time that you were on my show, to, let's just say for today, for any entrepreneur out there, right? Anybody who either is already an entrepreneur or wants to be an entrepreneur, they want to be a business owner, they want to do well in life, they want to succeed at a high level, do cool stuff, change the world, whatever. You could give them one piece of advice of, something that you've learned now from being an entrepreneur for many, many years, scaling companies, big communities, all kinds of stuff, right? What would that piece of advice be?
That would be the one piece of advice I would give people is to measure the most important things that you're trying to improve. And we've talked about how we break that down: tax, credit, your finances, any other significant things that you're trying to improve in your life, your body weight, your strength, whatever those things are. You need to measure those things. And if you don't measure them, you are not improving them at the most efficient rate.
So powerful, dude. How in the world can you improve anything you're not paying attention to?
It's very hard.
Very difficult. Yeah, I love it, man. Where can people find you? And then where can they, if they're interested in credit stacking, they want your help, how do they get a hold of you there?
Yeah, so creditstacking.com is our website. If you guys want to learn more about the mentorship program that I have, would love to have you. It's creditstacking.com. Sign up for a free call. We'll go over everything, and one, for sure, give you some free value on the call and hopefully get you onboarded to the program. My Instagram is Jack McColl. I try to post some cool content there. And it's Jack McColl, creditstacking.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And Austin, really appreciate the round two. This is probably the best round two interview I've done. So Dude, thank you for the opportunity.
I love it. I really appreciate it. We'll link all that information down below as well. So if you're still watching, it'll all be in the description down below on every platform. I appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah. Hey, if you're still watching, do me a huge favor. Smash the like button, subscribe, okay? Go follow Jack, check out Credit Stacking, and I look forward to seeing you in the next show.